Now, American capital is increasingly targeting undervalued British assets, with two major takeover deals lifting market expectations. US private equity firm Castlelake has agreed a $7.2 billion takeover of the UK-based budget airline EasyJet after making 5 bids in total. EasyJet shares jumped more than 10% on the news, hitting a one-year high. Well, budget airlines are under pressure from rising fuel costs, driven in part by the conflict in the Middle East. In its latest half-year results, EasyJet reported a pre-tax loss of more than $736 million for the first 6 months to March the 31st. And that came despite a 12% rise in revenue, which reached around $5.3 billion. Well, another major deal involves the British television giant ITV. Sky, which is owned by the US media group Comcast, has agreed to buy ITV's broadcasting arm for more than $2 billion. The combined Sky and ITV broadcasting business would account for around 70% of the UK television advertising market. Let's get more on this now with Susannah Streeter, who's Chief Investment Strategist at Wealth Club. Susannah, great to have you back with us. Thanks for being here. So let's start with EasyJet, if we could. Shares surging on the takeover. Airlines really facing enormous pressure on profits due to the rocketing fuel prices. Is that really what's behind this takeover? What got it over the line, and what could it mean for passengers?
Yes, well, EasyJet does seem as though it's on its final approach for a move into private ownership. And certainly over the last few months, it's really been hit hard by the energy crunch and the Middle East crisis, with shares extending their decline. To some extent as well, I think EasyJet has been languishing due to the fact that overall UK assets seem to be valued more lowly than their overseas peers. But certainly the last few months have exacerbated that decline, and that's where Castlelake has come in. It's eyed the share price and thought, well, there is a lot of potential here. Certainly, there is a recovery expected from EasyJet. And I think, in particular, it's looking at its fleet of aircraft, but also its growing holidays business. It's not just a low-cost airline now. EasyJet is positioning itself to really take a slice out of the holiday market, the market which has been dominated by more traditional tour operators. And that is a really growing part of the business with higher margins. And I think that's what Castlelake is really interested in as well.
OK, let's switch to television then. Sky acquiring the media and entertainment part of ITV, the main commercial network here in Britain, not including the ITV Studios production unit. This is a massive deal, isn't it? And really quite unprecedented to have an American company essentially owning the oldest and biggest commercial television network in the UK. I mean, what's in it for both companies?
It certainly is a major deal. It's a big step in reshaping the European media landscape. The big players really are competing in a tough environment, and it's certainly been a tough time for journalists and producers and crews in the industry who've already been reeling from some pretty deep cost-cutting programs at the BBC. What you're seeing is traditional broadcasters really having to change tactics fast in the battle for audiences whose attention really is increasingly fragmented across streaming platforms, social media and online video. So what ITV is doing is concentrating, having a razor-sharp focus on creating the content, and then it's offloading its broadcasting arm to Sky to really provide the scale to compete. I think there will be plans for considerable efficiencies. There's going to be a real challenge ahead, I think, in ensuring that while it tries under this new entity, while it tries to streamline, it doesn't also lose so much talent which has been brought up over decades across the industry, that really in-depth industry talent. So I think, though, what you're likely to see is this come under scrutiny from the regulator, partly because of the way the news service is regulated, with a major stake of ITV has, and this feeling that if Sky News also takes over that stake in ITN as well, that could lead to a loss of plurality across the news landscape. So it's not necessarily going to really be passed without a significant hurdle to jump.
OK, and just briefly, it is a big vote of confidence, isn't it, in British production talent. What do both of these purchases say about the global attractiveness of British companies?
Yes, well, it does show that actually there are plenty of overseas buyers still circling UK assets, which have been arguably undervalued compared to overseas peers. And it is a worry for UK capital markets, with more listed companies turning private, offering investors less of a chance to get a slice of these companies in public markets. I think it also shows that there could be more opportunities ahead for investors in private markets. They've been opening up. And I think as you're seeing more companies staying private for longer or being taken over by private equities, what we're seeing here potentially with the Castlelake and EasyJet deal, that perhaps investors should be looking at those opportunities to get a slice of the action of these growing companies instead.
Indeed, Susannah, great to get your insights. Thank you so much. Susannah Streeter, Chief Investment Strategist at Wealth Club.